I want you to imagine taking this magnificent 12th century stone monastery, right?
Okay.
And just paving a 4-lane commercial highway directly through the center of its courtyard.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite an image.
Right. Because, like, the physical structure of the monastery might still be standing. The ancient stones haven't technically moved. But the context that made the space sacred, the deep isolation, that profound silence that actually gave it meaning, is just completely obliterated.
Yeah, that is actually a highly accurate way to visualize this this phenomenon of environmental and cultural whiplash. Because when you return to a pristine place after decades away and you find it just transformed by heavy industry, you aren't just losing a personal memory.
No, absolutely not.
You're witnessing the active structural alteration of a world wonder. I mean, it forces a complete recalibration of what that space even means anymore.
Which, honestly, brings up the core driving question for you listening today. If you witness that kind of destruction, how far into the absolute wilderness would you be willing to go to find the magic that was lost? Welcome to the deep dive.
It's a huge question.
It really is. And today, we are following David Ways. He's an expert Nepal guidebook author, and we're looking at day 1 of his return to the restricted region of Nar Phu.
Right, the Nar Phu trek.
Exactly. And look, if you fly into Kathmandu and spend, any time at all wandering through the gear shops of Tamil, you're going to hear whispers about these hidden valleys.
Oh, for sure.
So David is starting his journey from Pokhara, and we are going to be tracking the intense, heavily emotional beginning of this major expedition.
We really need to establish the stakes immediately here because this is not a casual holiday itinerary.
Yeah.
This is an emotional crusade. David is launching what he tentatively calls Project Greater Annapurna Circuit.
I love that name.
Yeah, his mission is basically to see if this highly restricted hidden valley of Nar Phu can act as a viable bypass, like a geographical workaround to route trekkers away from the newly built roads, essentially trying to make the Annapurna Circuit great again.
Okay, let's unpack this heavy emotional backpack David is carrying before he even takes his first step. Because, to understand his desperation to find this bypass, we really have to look at the ghost that is haunting this entire journey, the original Annapurna Circuit.
The original circuit was, without exaggeration, I mean, it was considered one of the greatest long-distance treks on the planet.
Right.
But back in 2008, David was actually there to physically watch road builders dynamiting the steep mountain trails along the Marsiangdi Valley.
God, that must have been devastating.
It was. The sheer violence of dynamite echoing through the Himalayas literally shattered the bedrock of that legendary route.
It's like watching your favorite obscure indie band completely sell out and play it. Like a shopping mall opening.
Yeah.
But worse, obviously. And what fascinates me is the tension between the developers' promises and the reality on the ground. Because the initial narrative was incredibly optimistic, right?
Oh, very much so.
Developers claimed the new roads wouldn't kill the Annapurna Circuit trek, that the two could somehow perfectly coexist.
Which was completely wrong.
Right. For years now, the original trail has essentially been on life support. You've got these purists who saved up their entire lives for a pristine Himalayan experience, and they're finding themselves forced to share narrow mountain ledges with heavy machinery.
Breathing in diesel fumes.
Exactly. Breathing in fumes and just walking through thick clouds of limestone dust kicked up by passing cargo trucks. I mean, is David's quest driven purely by stubborn nostalgia at this point, or is there a genuine practical way to save this trek?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains why this matters so deeply. David is actively seeking to preserve what he calls the old-school trekking vibe.
The classic experience.
Exactly. No internet, ancient settlements, high passes, and food grown from the local earth. It's a fight between modern convenience and the preservation of wild spaces. But doing so requires entering a highly restricted zone, which brings us to the first major hurdle of his expedition.
Right, because if you have ever traveled to a developing nation, you know that the phrase highly restricted area is usually synonymous with bureaucratic nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
You expect to lose days of your life sitting in dingy government offices, bribing clerks, dealing with mountains of red tape.
Historically, that was the exact reality in Nepal. Securing a restricted area permit used to mean thick stacks of printed papers, physical passport photos you had to glue to forms, and old-fashioned rubber stamps layered over multiple official signatures.
Just massive friction.
Exactly. It was an administrative ordeal designed to intentionally limit access.
But David's experience on day one is surprisingly jarring, isn't it? Because the process is completely frictionless now.
Completely electronic.
Yeah, it's just a document sent to a smartphone. Contains his name, passport number, trekking company details, permit number, and a scannable QR code.
Right.
Actually, David notes, rather humorously, that strict European data privacy laws like GDPR carry absolutely zero weight in Nepal,
None at all.
because anyone with a scanner at a checkpoint instantly pulls up his entire identity.
It is entirely out in the open. But you gotta admit, the efficiency is undeniable. The trekking agencies simply emailed the QR code to his guide, Gautam, so they could just present it at the army and police checkpoints.
That's wild.
David literally had the entire bureaucratic hurdle cleared while he was still traveling from Pokhara.
See, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel a strange dissonance here.
How so?
Well, getting a digital fastpass like a QR code pinged to an iPhone to access one of the most rugged, ancient, and isolated terrains on planet Earth, it feels almost like using a cheat code in a video game.
I see what you mean.
Doesn't that frictionless digital ease sort of strip away some of the romantic, earned feeling of a major expedition? There is a part of me that thinks the frustration of fighting for those rubber stamps somehow makes the mountains feel more wild and untamed.
That is a deeply romantic view of bureaucracy, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But let's look at the actual mechanism of why this happened. This lack of immediate stress actually changes the game for solo trekkers.
Okay, how so?
Well, it democratizes the trail. It removes the artificial administrative barriers that used to keep independent hikers out. But it also means the real hurdles of your journey are no longer administrative.
They're physical.
Entirely physical and logistical, which David and his guide, Gautam, discovered the literal second they try to reach the trailhead.
Okay, right. Let's talk about the transition from the dream of the expedition to the gritty, bone-rattling reality of transportation. Because day one isn't about walking at all.
Not even a little bit.
It is entirely about the raw logistics of securing transport. So let's paint the picture of this chaotic crucible. David and Gautam need to get up to Koto. They book passage in a shared Jeep. Now, I need you to visualize a vehicle engineered to hold a maximum of 8 people.
And that is a very optimistic manufacturer's estimate.
Extremely generous. But the Jeep they climb into is currently packed to the interior roof with 12 adult human beings.
It's basically a clone car at this point.
It is. And it's not just people. The microeconomy of the region is crammed into this vehicle. There are massive sacks of grain, heavy bags of industrial concrete, towering bags of rice, random possessions wedged into every conceivable gap.
And poor Gautam.
Oh my gosh, Gautam, the guide, is squashed completely flat against a reinforced window, staring out at the river, just dreaming of booking a private Jeep.
Just wishing he was anywhere else.
Right. All while the vehicle bounces violently along the river gorge on a road that you really can't call a road. It's just a muddy, rocky track carved into a cliff face.
Which is a brutal reality check.
But this brings up a massive question for me. If David writes guidebooks for a living, he's the expert, right?
Yeah, he is.
So why suffer? Why subject yourself to 5 hours of being a human sardine pressed against a bag of concrete? Why not just leverage your success, buy out the private Jeep, and save your spine the trauma?
Well, David has a very clear rationale for this. First, we have to look at the financial reality. Booking a private Jeep costs the equivalent of 5 of his book sales.
Wait, really? 5 whole book sales just for one ride?
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Paying for a private Jeep does not magically pave the road.
Right, obviously.
It takes the exact same amount of time. You are still bouncing over the exact same jagged rocks for 5 hours, just with slightly more oxygen in the cabin.
That's a fair point.
But the deeper reason David takes the shared Jeep is that it grounds him in the reality of the local economy and the genuine trekker experience.
He has to eat his own cooking, basically.
Exactly. And it's during this miserable ride that David points out something huge. The old walking trail below Chiang is effectively a transit road now. For purists, David strongly advises driving to Chiang just to acclimatize.
So you just skip it.
Yeah, bypassing the ruined lower circuit entirely.
Which brings us to the end of that brutal Jeep ride. Late in the afternoon, bruised and exhausted, David and Gautam are finally deposited in the town of Koto.
Finally.
And Koto is a fascinating place because it is literally a town caught between two worlds. It's the gateway.
The absolute threshold.
So picture the scene. David steps out of the Jeep.
Yeah.
To your left is the busy, Jeep-choked transit road continuing on to Manang.
Loud and dusty.
Right. It's the uncompromising reality of the present. But to your right, hanging over the river, is a bridge. And across that bridge is the restricted Nar Canyon.
The entrance to Nar Phu.
Exactly. It is sealed off, it is profoundly silent, and most importantly, it is entirely inaccessible by any road.
No heavy machinery can cross it.
None. This is the official gateway. And here's where it gets really interesting, because David's mindset here is completely fascinating to me. When David stands on that bridge, he's not looking at it the way a tourist would.
No, not at all.
It reminds me of a director scouting a film location. He isn't just looking at the view, he's calculating reality for everyone else.
Yeah, we call that the guidebook writer's burden.
Break that burden down for me. What does that actually look like on the trail?
Well, think about Gautam, the guide. Gautam is incredibly experienced, right? He misses the tiny details because his goal is simply getting himself and his client from point A to point B safely.
Sure, that makes sense.
But David is working constantly. He is GPS tagging every location, he is examining the hygiene of every single tea house, and he's evaluating obscure side paths.
He has to hike with profound empathy.
Exactly. He is thinking about families with kids, trekkers with medical needs, and those who need slower acclimatization, rather than just pushing his own physical limits.
He's beta testing the wilderness for thousands of strangers.
He really is. His routing choices literally dictate the safety and the economic survival of these remote lodges.
That is a staggering amount of responsibility to carry into a trek.
And it all begins right here, standing at the edge of the canyon in Koto as the afternoon light starts to fade.
It paints such a vivid picture of anticipation. Koto sitting perfectly quiet in the shadows. The digital permits are cleared. The physical trauma of the Jeep is over.
Tomorrow, the gorge opens up.
It does. And the ultimate questions remain hanging in the air. Will David successfully make it to the trailhead tomorrow? Will this new permit truly unlock the valley and save the Annapurna Circuit for solo trekkers?
The answers are waiting right across that bridge. And, before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over.
I'd love to hear it.
When we journey back to try and reclaim a lost, beautiful place from our past, are we really trying to save the landscape, or are we just searching for the person we were when we first walked that trail?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy, haunting thought. Are we trying to outrun the limestone dust or just outrun time itself?
It's the eternal question for any returning traveler.
It really is. Well, to find out how David's journey unfolds and to see if the Annapurna Circuit can truly find its bypass, you absolutely must check out David Way's The Longest Way Home Nepal Travel website.
Highly, highly recommend it. David's guidebooks are the most updated guidebooks in the world today.
They really are. Specifically, you need to check out his Trekking in Nepal guidebook, which includes the Nar Phu trek.
It's a must-read.
Definitely. We have links in the show notes for you, so go check those out. And do please like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss out on where this expedition goes next.
The silence of the canyon is waiting.
It is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, and we'll catch you next time.